Hello, everyone. A very good morning to all respected Principal Madam, the resource person of today's program, Dr. Rekha Shangpliang, my colleagues, and all my dear students. On behalf of the Sociology Department, Shillong Commerce College, I welcome you all to this talk on gender sensitization organized by the Department of Sociology of the college. The need for gender sensitization has been felt and realized in today's present society, as it is a basic requirement to understand the sensitive needs of a particular gender. I therefore thank our principal for motivating and supporting us to organize this talk. So before we move on, I would like to request Madam Principal to give a welcome speech. What is it? I just.
Please allow my video to be opened.
Okay, ma'am. We are doing that.
Because it says that the host has, stopped it.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
We are doing that. Okay. So, ma'am, you can on your video now. So, you can on your video now.
Yeah. Okay. No. Yeah. No. The host has asked you to start your video. Okay, I start my video.
Now yeah. We can see you, ma'am.
Hello, good morning, everybody.
Now we can see you, ma'am.
You can see me, no? Good morning, everybody. Good morning, resource person, Dr. Rekha Shangpliang, Dr. Sambhalin, the chairperson of today's session, Sir Mantri, Sir Bankarlen, and and all the members of the Sociology Department. A very warm welcome to you all. Ms. Rekha, welcome you once again virtually to this college. We are so happy to see familiar faces early morning. It brings us good luck. Let's hope it brings you good luck today, because we know it's a very busy schedule for you today, and I wish you all the best. And I'm really thankful to you that you have agreed to come and speak to our students and to our faculty members regarding this very, very important subject. We as women, minusing the men who are present there, we as women, we always feel exploited, we are victimized, and just because we are women. And this is something that does not really start just does not really start just in a day or two. It has been going on in our society ever since evolution, probably, because they always felt, everyone felt that the women are the weaker section, just because physically we look weak, but probably we are mentally much more stronger than men. But because we are not given a chance to act, to think, to do the things that men do, and that's why we shy away from doing many things, probably. For our students, I would like to say that there is a difference between gender and sex. Students should be knowing this. What is gender? Gender is the culturally and socially constructed roles, responsibilities, privileges, relations, and expectations of women and men, boys and girls, because these are socially constructed. They can change over time and differ from one place to another. I'm told that in US there are 52 genders. You can just imagine. Here in India, we can think maybe of 3, because of the male, female, and the transgenders. But in US, there are 52 genders. I wonder what are they? And that is because, you see, human rights is really respected there. And when we are talking of gender issues here, we are really coming to the subject of human rights and women's right, because women's right is part of human rights, because we women are part of the human beings also. And the concepts differ from place to place and from time to time. Now, sex is the biological makeup of male and female people. It is what we are born and does not change over time, nor differs from place to place. In April 2014, Supreme Court of India declared transgender to be the third gender in Indian law. Now, if we look at the concepts of male and female, the psychological concepts, or the concepts, or the ideas that has been given to us by the society, we say male are dominant, female are submissive, male are independent, women are dependent, male are intelligent, women are unintelligent, males are rational, women are emotional, male are assertive, women are receptive, male are analytical, women are intuitive, male are strong, women are weak, men are brave, women are timid, men are ambitious, while women are contented, men are active, women are passive, men are competitive, women are cooperative, men are insensitive, and women are sensitive. But if we look at these things, maybe if we look around us, and if we look around the people at home also, probably all of us have males and females at home. We have a father, we have a brother, we have the sons. Then again, men will be having their mothers, they'll be having their sisters, they'll be having their daughters at home. These things do not, we pigeonhole people. It is not that only men are dominant, even females can be dominant. It is not that women are submissive. We are not submissive. It is because we are not allowed to assert ourselves. That's why probably we are submissive. We are being subjected. We are being, mm, a pressure is on us by the society, and that's why probably we are submissive. And they say men are intelligent. Aren't women intelligent? I'm sure when God gave us birth, when God created men and women, I'm sure He has given us the same share of intelligence. It depends upon how much we use it and how much we are allowed to use it, probably. And so, society is the culprit. Society really brings us into that pigeonhole and describe us and put us in that place where, like, we cannot come out. But it's high time, with human rights around, we must come out of these concepts. Now, you cannot say women are timid. We are not timid. If given a chance, I'm going to retaliate. I personally, if someone gives me one slap, I'm sure I'm not a Gandhian. I'm not a person who is going to follow the Gandhian philosophy that I'll give my left cheek also. No, I'm not going to be. I'm not timid. I'm going to give back. Because you see, psychologically, if we look at it psychologically, there is a part of us, in every human being, in human psychology, it seems we have both male and the female in us, and according to occasions we rise up to that situation. So if the situation arises that I should be timid, then I am timid. If the situation arises that I should be assertive, I should be aggressive, I am aggressive. And we are brave also. It's not that we are not brave. Are we not competitive? Even women are competitive. We by human nature, we are ambitious also, we are competitive also, because we want to do things. But again, the whole thing is this: the society doesn't allow us to do things. Now, gender discrimination starts right from home, right from our family. Every time we are told, females are told, baby girls are told, you should not do that because you're a girl. A baby boy is told, you should not cry. My, are you a girl? You should not cry. So aren't men supposed to cry? Aren't boys supposed to cry? Even they are emotional. It's not that only women are emotional. Even men have emotions. But you see, the family does not allow us. The society is brought up in such a manner, in this age-old tradition of dominance. Probably male dominance was so strong once upon a time that they put up these things for women, that girls should do this, boys should do that. And if you remember our childhood days, there were shoes in Bata, I remember. And girls wouldn't like, naughty boys' shoes. You can just see from the very concept, why do we have to call naughty boys' shoes? Why can't we call them naughty girls' shoes? You see, are boys only naughty? Even girls can be naughty. And why should we allow, why should there be segregation between a girl's shoe and a boy's shoes? So you see the whole business society, the whole family, the parents, the mothers. There are times, mothers are the ones, especially in the Indian society, mothers are the ones who instill into the girls that you are a girl, so you should be the one who should sacrifice. You should be the one who should be looking after your younger brothers and sisters. And if a younger brother beats the elder sister, the mother will say, oh, he's small, so please do not retaliate. You should tolerate all these things. So it's the family which makes us very passive and very, very dominant, actually. And it's not that by birth we are dominant. Okay, so they say you're a girl, you can't talk loud. You're a girl and you need to learn to cook. You are a girl, you can't wear that short or a skirt. But I'm sure girls can talk loud. Why should we not talk loud? We have to assert ourselves. And the world's best cook are men, I thought. It's not that girls should only cook, even men can cook. And it's up to us. That's why the girls, as today's, the title is very apt. Today's talk, or the discussion that we are going to have is, women's right is a human right. We have all the right. We can wear any kind of dress. If men can wear any kind of dress, why not us? We are human beings. We have our own right, and constitutionally we are given that right, so we should follow. Similarly, boys are also told, your place is not in the kitchen. I will speak from the perspective of the non-tribal family. Probably, boys are not taught to do much work, even to wash their own clothes. Mothers wash their clothes, sisters wash their clothes. After marriage, their wives wash their clothes. So you see, they feel that that is not their job. And girls are taught to do all these things, so that they feel that they are the ones who should wash the clothes, cook and clean. But so you see, who is responsible? It's the parents in the family. We will not go to the society first. It is a micro society that we call a family, that is responsible for the gender discrimination that is happening. Why blame the society? It's the family, it's the parents. Okay. And then from very small age, we when you give birthday gifts to children, to the girls we'll give dolls. Girls play with dolls. Can a boy not play with dolls? Of course. Then boys are given cars and guns. You see, the very fact that we are giving guns as a gift to the little baby boy, or to the child, boy child, we are making him aggressive. We are actually inducing him to become more aggressive. So who is to be blamed if the child becomes aggressive? He does tie, and then he thinks that he's killing people. And to the girl, we give the baby child, the baby doll, and she's made to feel that in future her only duty is to give birth to a child and to look after the child, because from small the baby doll is given to her as a gift, and she thinks that is her duty. And so psychologically we put it into the girls, all these things. So the gender discrimination in education is also so much, especially in India, especially among, of course, when it comes to Northeast and when it comes to Meghalaya, I feel so good. I really feel good that the percentage of women education, educated women is more. Children are sent to school regularly, and they make it a point. But in the plains, amongst the non-tribals especially, not in Shillong. Shillong is very good. But if you go to up north, maybe even down south, you will see, even in West Bengal, I have seen, girl children are not sent to school, because they are supposed to get married. And why spend so much of money? And so we are actually making them backward. We are actually making them backward. It's the family, it's the parents. And of course, the new government we have seen is giving so much of importance to girl children. Now even West Bengal has changed, because they are giving cycles to girls, so that they can go to school and not only look after family and the younger brothers and sisters when the parents are going for work. uh, Girls, if they are given opportunities, they will really come up. Has Kamala Harris not come up? Was our prime minister not a very powerful lady once upon a time? Once upon a time, they were our time, college time, we had two very iron ladies in the world. One was Mrs. Thatcher, the other was Mrs. Gandhi. And because you see, they came from a liberal family. So families have to become more liberalized. They have to have a more liberal opinion, about their own children, that there is no difference between a girl child and a boy child. We are also, at workplace, sometimes we find uh, there are discriminations that is being done against the women. Same work is done by the men and women, especially, amongst the laborers, we'll say. uh, yes, sometimes in the companies also we find, especially amongst the laborers, the woman is breaking the stone. She is carrying the sand on her head. She is doing equal work as a man does. But when it comes to payment, the wages that are being given to them, daily wages that are given to them, women are being paid less and men are being paid more. This is an utter discrimination in the field of work also. So in the workplace, many a time, especially in companies also, women are paid less. Luckily, we who are in the educational department, we find that we are equally paid. It is because, again, education. We are all educated, and probably education sector realizes that women women are equal. And if we look into the statistics of the people who are engaged in the field of education, teachers, you will find there are more females, more lady teachers than gent teachers. And I think Commerce College is one example. We are more ladies here and less gents here. Of course, that does not mean that there is a gender parity in our disparity in our college. We also welcome the gents teachers in the college. uh, then again, there are times we find, like in certain cases, like women, when they are pregnant, people don't understand. Male dominated society, they don't realize the problem that women face even at home. We are subjected to all kinds of hard work, all kinds of labor, physical labor. There is no consideration for women, pregnant women, either at home or in the workplace. But this is where the discrimination comes. They should think that women are also human beings. They also feel pain. The pain men do not understand because they do not undergo the same situation. But if they were to be operated upon their bodies, wouldn't it pain? Of course it would pain. So they should realize that the same pain that they feel, even women feel the same pain. So this disparity should go. Now, of course, Miss Anjali, Miss Rekha is going to give us in greater details. She's going to give us in greater details regarding the whole concept of women being, deprived, women being exploited. I will not go into the details. The only thing is, the only answer to this is sensitization. We can only change the world through sensitization. Our mindset should change. And therefore, there has to be a modification of behavior. There has to be a modification of our mental thoughts regarding women and men. And, it's not that we should always behave according to a gender. We can always behave like human beings. What matters is that we must behave like human beings, not as genders. That is very important. And, we should help, since we as teachers and students who are listening to us today, since you all are students, especially since you are listening to this talk, from today onwards, your mindset should change, saying that yes, women can do it. Women deserve more respect, more love, more attention, more care than anybody else. This is all that I have to say. Ms. Rekha, you will give us in details about your subject. Thank you so much. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you. Thank you so much. Once again, welcome to this session. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the speech. So now we have come to the main part of the program, that is to hear a talk on gender sensitization. We are so happy and fortunate to have with us Dr. Rekha M. Shangpliang. Ma'am, thank you so much for sparing your time with us despite your busy schedule today, as you are going to have to attend an interview for your promotion in Nuhu this afternoon. Thank you so much, ma'am. So a brief introduction about Dr. Rekha M. Shangpliang. Madam Rekha is an associate professor in the Department of Sociology, Nuhu, Shillong. She is my teacher right from the time when I was studying my master degree. We are honored, ma'am, that you have accepted our invitation to deliver a talk today on this topic. And Madam Rekha has an insightful knowledge about the topic because her specialization include sociology of environment, gender and family and kinship. And then she has 3 books to her credit and has a number of articles published in the national and international journals. Some notable contributions are her work in matrilineal, forest and khasi, gender and livelihood intervention. So ma'am, not to take much of your time, I handle over the time to you.
Thank you so much, Sanba, the head of the department, and other faculty members who I'm sure are very familiar to me. I can see Mebada and Penbianglin, who are both, Penbianglin, of course, was my student. Mebada, she's a very good friend of mine. And I'm not sure about the other faculty members, Sanba. Anyway, I am thankful to the department as a whole, and especially to the principal, Ma'am Sabita Sen. Thank you so much. We are also family friends with you, so everybody is known to me. I also have a very close connection with the college because I think I've paid so many visits to your college,
Yes,
offering my service to, do the selection board and all that. So it's always been a very cordial relationship with your college. And the day that Sanba broke the news that they wanted me to, give this lecture, at that time, this news about my promotion was not there. So immediately I gave word to her, and as luck would have it, I mean, I don't know how to call it. Is it good luck or bad luck? It clashed with this date. So today I will be facing one of the in the pinnacle of my career. That is the last and final interview of my career, academic life. And the tension is very strong, but I really, I try to adjust and manage my time, and this entire moment that I have now is totally dedicated to you. So I just hope that I do justice to my talk today. And well, this is a very well loved topic for me. I've always enjoyed, sharing my knowledge, the little knowledge that I have about gender issues. Just yesterday, I had a talk with the English department from NEHU, and it was a talk on ecofeminism. Perhaps in the months or days to come, I could also give this talk to your college if they are interested. And, feminist rights, just as Ma'am Sabita had just mentioned just now. In fact, you made my job much easier. The introductory part that she gave was really, really very informative. And I think she's very right when she was talking about women's movements, the feminist movements, which has taken a very strong root, right from, if you go back in history, feminist movement started actually in America. And that was the time when women were fighting for a very different cause altogether, which perhaps today we women are enjoying it, and that is the voting rights. So it was basically the suffrage rights of the women, and the black women, the black movement also at that time, that is racist movement, was also coming along the same time with the feminist movement. So all along the way, feminist movement have taken different strands, different branches have emerged. But there was a stage around the 80s, late 70s and the 80s, when we call it the radical movement, radical feminist movement, which took on a Marxist turn. That was the time, I think, which caught the attention of this gender discrimination, and then the violence, atrocities against women. And as academicians, I think we would be more interested in that period because there was a flood of literature at that time. There was a huge literature, to name a few, Simone de Beauvoir. I think we all know her celebrated statement when she said, "One is not born but becomes a woman." The word becoming is so relevant to what ma'am Sabita had to say about, the societal restrictions and the stereotyped mindset that we have. And it's basically the society and the external space that has created this kind of a check on what a woman should be. So Simone de Beauvoir, the French feminist, she was a pioneer and the leading stalwart of feminist movement who sparked off this radical movement. And in that way, we see the feminist issues coming up very strongly, with which came in the human rights movement. And therefore we have this very, very important agenda before us, that we as women could fight through, could battle against discrimination, because we have a stronghold, and we have something to lean on the human rights. So I thought I would dwell on this. There was also an article that I had published in the Shillong Times on International Women's Day this year. So perhaps you can also Google back. If you just type there women's rights are human rights, Shillong Times, you will get it there. And I've taken excerpts from that article, which I believe brings out, especially, for the women of the Northeast, brings out certain key issues. Because, women's rights all across the world are not the same. It might seem to be an umbrella term, isn't it? Women's rights are human rights. But this umbrella conceptualization of women's rights as being one and the same, I think it's wrong, totally wrong, because we have to talk about culture specific variations, and our culture and communities that we come from reflect different types of discrimination patterns. Even in India, for that matter, you cannot brand all of us as the Indian woman facing the same set of problems. Look at the matrilineal Khasis. Even here, when everything looks very nice and rosy, it's not a rosy picture altogether, because people from other parts of the country and other parts of the world would just brand us as women who have a very enjoyable status. But that is not the thing, right? We all know that even the women in the matrilineal society of the Khasi community do suffer and do have their own set of issues. So on that note, I have just prepared this presentation for today. We will go straight on with, there are two parts to my lecture. Firstly, very quickly, we all know what human rights is, but I thought I will just give you an understanding about the conceptualization of this human rights agenda, how it came about, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and what role it had to play, in giving birth to the human rights. And the later part of my lecture will be on analyzing the human rights from a gendered lens. So being very gender specific, I'm going to look at certain issues. I know it's very large and the list is endless, right? About what are the types of discrimination and violence against women. But I will just touch on some of the key problems and issues concerning human rights from a gendered lens, and perhaps link it up with the women of the Northeast. So I will just share the slide now, and I request the technical team to help me with it. It's already there actually. Can you share it?
You have to click share screen from your side.
Oh, okay. I'll have to start that again. And then?
to share your presentation. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's visible now. Yeah.
Women's rights are human rights. So straight away, what are human rights? Human rights are the rights that are inherent to all human beings, regardless of gender, nationality, place of residence, sex, ethnicity, religion, color, or any other categories. And we know that, this Declaration of Human Rights was meant for basically to have, to announce to humanity that this is a right that every human being should enjoy, irrespective of all these differences. So while all human beings are entitled to human rights, not all human beings experience them equally throughout the world. And when we say not all human beings here, I would specifically stress on women. The gendered, how even in a world that we are assured of having human rights, to fight for, to fight with these as the armor that we can wear on us, and we can bravely say, that this is my human right. But even in spite of that, we are still struggling through. And women being half of the world's population, yet they have so many issues in front of them. Now, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, as we all know, this is, I think, known to all. It was a declaration adopted by the United Nations General Assembly on the 10th of December. We just celebrated the Human Rights Day just a few days ago, 10th of December, and every year it's celebrated. But it basically started in 1948 at Paris. And the first lady at that time, that is Eleanor Roosevelt, the wife of American President Frank Roosevelt, chaired the session. And she was a woman who really felt for the cause of humanity, for the cause of discrimination, and she took a very leading role. And she had a big role to play in formation of the UDHR. So for that reason, there's a slight relation between, the formation of the UDHR and also the French Revolution, because at that time, right after the World War, if you remember, that these two, they go side by side, the formation of the UDHR and the culmination of the end of the Second World War. And it was basically because of all the trials and difficulties and the problems that came out of the Second World War that led to the Declaration of the Human Rights. So the Magna Carta, as the name suggests, seems like the announcement of a kind of policy, an announcement of the kind of assurance to the entire world that this is going to be the agenda for the world from now. The human race should now not be scared of anything. So this was the UDHR, is also known as the Humanities Magna Carta. So as I said, there's a link between the formation of the human rights and the Second World War. So with the result, due to the experience of the Second World War, the creation of the United Nations came about, and all the world leaders, they came together in a common platform to bring about peace and brotherhood, and that led to the formation of the UN Charter. So the preliminary draft was prepared in 1947. And as I said just now, Eleanor Roosevelt, the first lady at that time, she was the driving force behind the declaration. And she was the one who termed the declaration as the Magna Carta for all mankind. So I've just picked up these 30, which are called the 30 basic human rights, which are also the human rights that can be divided into the 3 categories, which I will be showing later. So if you just take a quick glance over all this, I need not read them. I think you can see them. Some of them, say, for example, the next one, let me just share this. The right to privacy. Even under this, I think you can well imagine the number of, the kinds of rights that we enjoy today, like the right to intellectual property. That's also a right to our own privacy, right? The right to your own space, your own home. Somebody cannot even, intrude into your property or come to your house and shout. Even that would be a violation of human right if you talk in that sense, that you are violating the right to my privacy at home. My home is my space. So that kind of a freedom was granted, through the Declaration of the Human Right, that provided fair treatment, fair, adjustment of all human beings, irrespective of differences between them. So these are some of the rights that I have picked out, which are called the 30 basic human rights. The right to your own things, the freedom of thought, freedom to say what we want, freedom to go where we like. And we have this freedom to your own responsibilities. Look at number 25, right to have a bed and some food. So these are very personal rights, but in the long run, they do impact, in the way you are treated by others. So whenever there is this clash between the private space and the public space, as we call it, so the clash between what is private to you and it is being intruded or being disturbed by, the public space, that's when human rights would come in as an issue. And the last right, of course, nobody can take away these rights and freedom from us. So, very rightfully, we have these 30 basic human rights, which are divided into three categories. If you look carefully, the first generation rights are known as blue rights. Some of them are very civil and political in nature. So those rights have been categorized as separately as the blue rights, and they relate to, if you look at the last line, they relate to liberty. Okay, so the first generation rights are more to do with political rights, so they relate to the concept of liberty. Second generation rights, they deal more in terms of, equality of status, economic opportunities, and they were very social and cultural in nature. So basically, they deal with with equality. And there's a very close relation between the concept of equality and the second generation rights. And the third generation rights are more to do with, very collective and developmental human rights, which means they are the rights that lead to that deal with what is, developmental, which are progressive. They are the progressive rights that may be added as the generation changes and, as we go on with the changing times. So these are the developmental rights and generational rights that can be added, as we move on with life, as we move on with modernization and changing times. So what is very striking about these three categories is, if you look carefully, these three concepts: liberty, equality, fraternity, they highlight also, what is written in our preamble, right? In the preamble to the Indian Constitution, that we, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens liberty, equality, fraternity. And we all know the background of this is through the French Constitution, and it culminates, with the French Revolution, where these three were the most important ideologies. So the human rights is implanted in such ideologies like these, which have given a very, very strong basis to the, not just to the constitution, but to humanity, in order to respect them. So this brings out that, that the kind of respect and the reverence that we would have towards these rights, for which reason they are also known as the Magna Carta, of humanity. So these being the background of the formation of the United Nations Charter and the UDHR, and how the human rights came into, they were listed, and how they are divided into three. Where do we really place women, over here, and how can we segregate, or we see the gendered aspect or the gendered perspective of the human rights? Now, women's right as human right came out not, I would not say as the first instance, but it started gaining ground. As I said, it started gaining ground, and it is a very, very common phrase that was used back then by the feminist movement, as I said, during the uh, second wave. And I don't know how many of you have heard of this lady called Mary Wollstonecraft. Mary Wollstonecraft, in 1848, that was long ago, she brought out a book called Vindication of the Rights of Women. Vindication of the Rights of Women. And Mary Wollstonecraft, till today, she's a very celebrated feminist figure for one reason, and that is because she bravely wrote. I mean, it was only through her pen, the pen and paper, that she very strongly, opposed the kind of society that she saw around that time that she lived. But that book, sparked off the feminist movement in a very big way. And the second wave movement actually culminates with her writings. So Mary Wollstonecraft, with her book, Vindication of the Rights of Women, paved the way for the feminist movement to take up human rights issues also as one of the issues for women's rights. And the First Lady of the United States, that is Hillary Clinton, the wife of the uh, ex-president of the United States, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, she's the one who actually mentioned about this statement: human rights are women's rights are human rights. And I could go on and on about the history of this Beijing conference. There's a lot of things, about the, how, why, and how they chose Beijing as the center for holding this Fourth World Conference of Women. So the United Nations Conference on Women is held annually. And in this year, 1995, they purposely chose Beijing, because understanding that the fact that China, is a very patriarchal society. China is very tradition-bound society, country, where women, their rights have, for quite a long time, since age-old times, they have been, I would not say subjugated, but their rights are not as equal to that of men. And for that reason, it's a very patriarchal setup that they have been brought up. So the conference was held in Beijing in 1995 on the 5th of September. And it was then that Hillary Clinton, she was asked to grace the occasion, as the chief guest. And over there, it was brought out about, there were so many voices, as I said, who protested against holding the conference at Beijing. And Beijing, I mean, China for that matter, has had a history of atrocities against women. They have the one-child policy and all these things. But the conference was held in spite all these oppositions, and it was a very, very successful conference. And among many of the agendas, that were formulated during this conference, I remember one, because I used to teach this paper in the third semester. One, right, because we have to look at the Beijing conference in a very detailed manner. So one of the human rights agenda that was brought out for the first time in history during the Beijing conference was the reproductive rights of women, the reproductive rights of women. So that created history, that women have, freedom to decide upon the birth of their child. The reproductive rights was one of the rights that was for the first time brought in during the Beijing conference. So that is how, this Beijing conference turns out to be very, very important. It impacted a lot on the human rights agenda and also on women's rights as a whole. And the feminist movement, got a more stronger hold over their issues. So this is a picture of Hillary Clinton when she was giving her speech at the Beijing conference. And of course, her celebrated statement where she mentioned that women's rights are human rights. So the speech that Hillary Clinton had given focused on many violations against women, like rape, then dowry burnings, domestic violence, etc. And all these Clinton claimed to be human rights violations. The mostly women-filled audience applauded and cheered during the 20 minutes speech. You can actually Google it on YouTube. You can check this particular speech. It's there on YouTube. And I've listened to it. It's a 20 minutes speech, 20-minute speech, which really caught the attention of the audience there. And I must say, her speech was so resounding. It was resounding with a lot of confidence, with a lot of, power and empowering women, giving them, full assurance about that, the protection of their rights, and giving them the assurance that the human rights is there to protect them. So the Beijing Declaration identified 12 areas, including education, health, economic participation, environment, in need of urgent action. So these are just a few, as I mentioned, one of which is the reproductive rights of women. So coming straight on to our issues, how are women's rights human rights? Is it enough just to, have the UDHR? Is it enough just to know that women's rights are human rights? What do we see all around us? I think it's not enough, right? I think women's voices are less heard in spite of all this. It looks like, every day is all the same. There's no change at all. And newspapers, the media highlights, cases, stray cases, I would say, but these are not the only ones. Every second, every minute, somewhere, something is being, done to women. Some woman is, fighting for her right. So coming to these points that I've mentioned, I still feel these are incomplete, but they are the ones that keep resounding, in the news that you see every day. It's nothing new. Violence, discrimination, and then the right to be educated, the right to our own property, the right to vote, the right to earn livelihood. Even here under this category, you will see that, the type of segregation that is happening at the workplace. In gender studies, whenever we talk about women's livelihood and, the workspace, we usually categorize this as, the workspace is categorized as the public space and the domestic space is the private space. So these are two different domains which are very, very important for a woman to, juggle between them or to, bring in some balance between the two. So when you talk about a woman working, a working woman, or she has to go out to work, there's always this problem of juggling between home and work. And also the kind of problems or issues that she would face at the workplace. We all know that sexual harassment at workplace has today been termed as one of the most important and burning issues, which is happening almost every day. And women are the victims, mostly. Men do work also, but the women are the more vulnerable. And again, when it comes to the corporate sector, there is the problem of, work distribution and division of labor in terms of hours of work, that women cannot work overtime, and so they are paid less. So those type of issues do highlight, the incapability of women. So I'm talking about, livelihood patterns of, educated women or higher class women. What about the women in the villages? What about women in the rural areas? Now, I've worked on this issue from the gender perspective in terms of environment and livelihood. As you know, that is my area of study. So when I was working on women's livelihood and forest, I came to know so many striking issues, which I never knew. And most of our women, the tribal women, let alone the Khasi, I think all the tribal women of the Northeast, they do face, a kind of what do you call this, the feminization of poverty that is hitting them very strongly today because of their inaccessibility to the forest, inaccessibility to the land. And on top of that, they do not have any land rights. So you might say, no, the Khasi women do have rights over land. They are only custodians. We know that, right? So in spite of being owners, they don't have they're marginalized because they don't have the right to manage those lands, selling, buying, and how they're going to, carry out the decision making. All that is not in their hands. So very rightly, many of these women whom I had interviewed in the villages, they were complaining about their, inaccessibility to those livelihood, which they used to enjoy maybe 10 years, 20 years ago. Today, they don't have those rights anymore. They have lost their right over the land and forest because for the simple reason that these lands and forests have become the private property of the rich businessmen, or they've been sold out for commercial purposes and for development purposes. Government has taken this land and so many other reasons. So I feel that women and livelihood, this is one of the issues that is very, very burning today, let alone the women in the cities or the educated woman who is working in a corporate office. Okay, she's a top class uh, leader in some governmental agency or somewhere. Or you talk about the poor woman in the village who's fighting for her right over the forest and land. So are we addressing these issues or not? That is the question. It's no use, putting up these in black and white, even the right to be educated. So we've seen women like Yusuf Jai, and then, the woman who had fought for the education of the girls' education from Pakistan, and what she had done, of course, her work is really commendable. But are all women, are all girls well educated today? Then again, in my paper, my article that I had brought out in the Shillong Times, I was talking about the Modi government bringing about this slogan. Today, it's so famous, the slogan, Beti Padhao, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao slogan. The Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao slogan, which is very related to this point about right to be educated. So how much more can we do, and how much more can the government and agencies and uh, universal platforms like this bring out these rights, until and unless the practicalities really are seen? Can we really see the practicalities happening in front of our eyes, or are they only in writing? So some of these issues still need to be worked out. They are gender sensitive. They are really addressing women's rights in a very strong way, but I think there's still a gap between what is being implemented and what is really happening in the real world. And this, of course, the violence against women is something which is very historical. And in a patriarchal society like India, where women have been subjugated for a long time. Of course, now we don't speak of that age anymore, where women are closed, they are behind closed doors, and they are not allowed to break the glass ceiling and all that. Even Hindu women have come out of the glass ceiling and all that. But there is something called the culture of silence, which I've seen, this statement I've seen being reflected in many, many books that I have read. This culture of silence is a culture that, we cannot avoid, especially for the women of our country. It's something that, the domestic sphere is considered to be a private sphere. So nobody should interfere with what is going on in this sphere. So if women are being subjugated in my family, we have all the right. Nobody can come and interfere. And the women are asked to keep mum. So that kind of a culture of silence has also, created a stumbling block, and it has come it has come in the way of bringing in these human rights, to be implemented in countries like ours, where women have had a history of being, subjugated. So this patriarchal control over women and all this, it keeps on, it keeps on growing. It's always there in the society, no matter how or where you see it. And then the types of violation against women. So the drug-related violence, this is something which I had just seen from, cases in and around the Northeast, when you see there's a lot of drug peddling going on. And when the husbands are into drug peddling, then the women, the wife, and the other members of the family suffer. And all this has led to, violence, domestic violence. And then when the husbands are, caught by the police and are kept behind bars, then the woman becomes the sole, support of the family. She has to head the family. That again leads to a lot of problems. So this also has become another type of violation, which is very specific to the women of the Northeast. Sexual violence, uh, sexual violence, where rape is the most serious crime of all, bringing all types of violation against women. And even if we don't see it as a violation of their right, there's something called, violation of the sanctity of the family also. So in a country like ours, especially, that the there is something like the stigmatization of that girl who was raped, or of that family. That is also something that they have to face for the rest of their life, isn't it? So sexual violence in terms of rape doesn't just impact on that victim alone, it impacts on the entire family. So that's also one kind of violation that has to be addressed. So dowry related violence, dowry, you may say, is not the order of the day, but it is happening quietly, silently. Somewhere it does happen, where the women are burned alive, and a lot of uh, atrocities being done to them. Domestic violence, this through a study that I made post COVID, I found out that there is an organization that had done this study, and they found that during the lockdown, there was an increase in the number of cases of domestic violence. And women were, even the National Commission for Women, the NCW, received a number of complaints from women during the lockdown period. So that again is, it amounts to patriarchy, it amounts to male control. Just excuse me. It amounts to male control and male domination. Harassment at workplace, this goes on, due to the ill hours of work, then the physical and mental pressure that the woman may have. These are also issues of women, whether it is in the rural areas or in the urban areas. And women in armed conflict situation, this is also very specific to the Northeast, I feel, because there is this ongoing intensity conflict for a long period of time. And women are mostly vulnerable during these times. And as you know, this has been an ongoing thing in the Northeast. We cannot say that, the Northeast is now peaceful, and there's never a time when, there has not been this kind of clash between the army and the people. Just a few weeks ago, not weeks, just a few days ago, you have seen what happened, the clash between uh, the army and the local people. So all this has, impacted even on the women. Women have had no access to health facilities for days and weeks and months. They have to stay back at home without any access to all these necessities, perhaps due to the control by the army and due to the ongoing ethnic conflict. So it's really very difficult for us to pinpoint, where exactly the problem lies. But somehow, as sociologists, we usually bring out suggestions and we bring out the future course of action in whatever way we can. I strongly believe and I support Ma'am Sabita's saying about changing the mindset. I think this is also where the problem lies, because people have become so stereotyped that these are the do's and don'ts for the woman, these are the do's and don'ts for the men, and the society is to be blamed, or to be more specific, the family. So mindset, I don't know where and how this will happen, when, but this has to, we have to give it a start. And I think the family, being the first institution uh, which gives the socialization to the child, I think this should be the place where, we need to bring in that, uh, you know, uh, the values to instill upon both the male child and the female child, to have a respect for each other and to understand each other's differences, to respect each other's differences. So women's help, self-help groups, NGOs, these can really be effective tools. This I have learned through a study that I made, again, through my study on women and nature. Uh, uh, with regard to women and nature, here in Meghalaya, the NESFAS, with regard to the organization called NESFAS, Northeast Slow Food Agro-Based Society. It is doing such a commendable job. And I used to mention this in every presentation that I have to do about gender. You know what they are doing? They are helping out women farmers in the villages to come out and to have the local markets, weekly markets in the city. They give them incentives to grow crops and then, seeds. And if you have heard of a lady called Vandana Shiva here in our country, she's a pro-activist feminist who is really working hard towards, helping the rural women in India to go for bioseed farming, and she has an organization called Navdanya. Nav in Hindi means 9 and Danya means seed. So now Danya is that organization which she starts, and it's doing very well. Women in the villages are taught how to, preserve the seeds, and they go for this farming system where women are playing the active role here. So I think that way, these are just examples of NGOs, the NESFAS here in the Northeast, then the Navdanya in the larger Indian mainstream. Why can't they do it? I think through their help and assistance, women can be more aware about their, rights and responsibilities to contribute not just to the society, but it would also help them sustain themselves. So now the National Literacy Mission and other agents, they can be used to empower women. And I could go on about these acts, but I thought it would take too much of our time. The acts are there, but these acts and laws are not known to many women. How many women, especially in the villages, do know that, they are protected with these acts and laws? So they are there, but it's only for, maybe educated people like you and I to spread the word, to pass on the message, and to make them known that, their rights are protected. And it is basically their human right to fight. It's not that since I'm a woman, I don't have the right, but all of the rights of women are human rights. So I would like to end with this theme of this year's International Women's Day. It says, let us choose to challenge. Let us choose to challenge, for with challenge comes a change to break the barriers of gender discrimination. And if we still have time, if Sanba will permit me, let us just enjoy this song. It was a song that was presented in the UN, one of the UN meetings. The name of the song is One Woman.
In Kigali, she wakes up. She looks at chores in Hanoi, Natal, Ramallah. In Tangier, she takes a breath, lifts up her voice. In Lahore, La Paz, Kampala, though she's half a world away. Something in me wants to say, we are one woman. You cry and I hear you. We are one woman. You hurt and I hurt too. We are one woman. Your hopes are mine, and we shall shine. In Wallace, she speaks the truth. She reaches out, then teaches others how to. In Jaipur, she gives her name. She lives without shame. In Manila, Sultan, though we're different as can be, we're connected. She with me. We are one woman. Your courage keeps me strong. We are one woman. You sing, I sing along. We are one woman. Your dreams are mine, and we shall shine. We shall shine. And one man, he hears her voice. One man, he fights her fight. Day by day, he lets go your ways. One woman at a time. Though she's half a world away, something in me wants to say, we are one woman. Your riches leads us all. We are one woman. You rise and I stand tall. We are one woman. Your world is mine, and we shall shine. Shine, shine, shine. We shall shine. Shine, shine, shine. We shall shine. Shine, shine, shine.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for presiding over gender sensitivity by raising awareness on human rights, especially women rights, and then which are a gender equality concern. You have beautifully touched on the matrilineal society and patriarchal control, etc. So through this talk, we are all informed propensity to behave in a manner which is sensitive to gender justice and gender equality issues. Moreover, the message of the song is so beautiful, ma'am. Thank you so much. So now I open to the questions from students. So students, if you are having any questions relating to the topic, please drop your questions in the chat box. There's no questions. We'll just wait for some time.
Can I come in, Miss Sandha?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I come in?
Yes, yes, you can.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. At the end of the talk today, especially after listening Miss Rekha, we can all come to the conclusion that women should assert ourselves. If we don't assert ourselves, people will not give us space. The male-dominated society will never give us space. So we must assert ourselves. We must tell them that we do matter. Women do matter. And even we can contribute to the society. No development, no sustainable development can happen without the contribution of women. It could be both economically, because even our contribution to the economics of the country, economics, politics of the country, and the development of the family. And if we look into the spiritual side, both are supposed to work together. It's the balance. The balance will only come about now because there's an imbalance, because there's male domination in the society. So women should assert themselves. They should make themselves felt, make themselves heard. But that does not mean that today itself I go home and I'm talking to my young students here. Today
So what are you going to do?
I think some technical from her side, I think.
Yes, there is some technical issues from her side, maybe, ma'am. So I think everything is clear from your side, ma'am Rekha, that students are not coming up with the questions yet.
No problem.
Okay.
Plus, I have to also, I think, wind up because I need to prepare myself now.
Oh, yes, ma'am, I understand. Yes. So now I think we'll skip to ma'am principal talk.
Okay, let me just say a few words also.
Yes.
So from my side, I would like to thank once again Madam Principal, Ma'am Sabita Sen, and then Sanbanilin, Mebada, Penbianglin, oh Sandra, now I can see her, Sandra.
Yes, Sandra.
Is that all? Any other faculty members?
And Sir Banker, Carmel Lim.
Okay, Sir Banker, the entire team of Shillong Commerce College. I'm really, really thankful for giving me this opportunity. It has truly been a good experience for me because talking about gender, as I said, is always a pleasure for me. And more especially if my audience is young people, because I think we need to put more and more inputs into them. And once they are well equipped with all this knowledge, that whatever we can put into their minds, they would be the forebearers, they would be the torch bearers of all these issues that are here. So I certainly hope that my talk would gain ground in your students. And I'm really thankful once again, Ma'am Sabita, thank you so much. And everybody in the sociology department, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now, ma'am, principal, actually, there is some technical issue from your side. That's why, okay, ma'am. So now we have come to the concluding part of the program, and I request Dr. Sandra Adriana Kwongla, Faculty of the Department of Sociology, to give the vote of thanks.
Oh, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
So, on behalf of the Department of Sociology, Shillong Commerce College, it is my utmost privilege to give this vote of thanks. Firstly, I would like to acknowledge our gratitude to our respected Madam Principal, Dr. Sabita Sen, for playing a major role in making this event a reality. It wouldn't have been possible, Madam, without your encouragement and motivation. Thank you. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for our respected guest speaker of the day, Dr. Rekha Shangpliang, for so generously accepting our invitation to give us a talk on such an interesting topic of gender sensitization, that is on women's rights are human rights. It was a privilege, ma'am, to have you as our guest speaker, highlighting on the importance of the rights of women. It is exactly what we needed to hear in this contemporary society. I am sure the students and all attendees enjoyed and benefited from this talk. Further, we are grateful to Sir Mantri Pasa, who, despite of his very tight schedule with back-to-back activities in the college, was willingly accepting to help us with technical works. It was very kind of you, sir. Thank you. And this virtual event wouldn't have been possible without the support of each one of my colleagues of Sociology Department, our head of the department, Dr. Sanbani Rendem, Dr. Meba Darlingdo, Dr. Banker Kamalim, and Ms. Pinbyang Nyota. Thank you for your contribution and dedication to making this virtual event a success. Lastly, my dear students, thank you for your participation and for your cooperation. Once again, I thank all for your cordial cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I hope you all wish me luck also.
Yes, yes. Today, ma'am, 173 people were listening to your talks, and there'll be 173 people praying for you.
Wow, thank you so much.
Yes. Our prayers are with you. We'll really pray for your success and for your next promotion.